Woo, it's good to be back. Microsoft is planning some big stuff for their July event, so let's discuss. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of 3-Bit Talks. If you like videos like this, be sure to hit that notification bell to be notified when our next video hits and stay up to date with our content. So there's a lot of awesome news to get through this week for Xbox, so let's talk about it. Phil Spencer discusses the June PlayStation 5 showcase, and he talked about it in an interview and basically talked about how he felt about their July showcase. Let's hear some of the key moments of that interview when he talks about the PlayStation 5.
You know, as a competitor, it's great to have them out there now. So we kind of know what the program is. We see the device, we see the games. Just being honest, I felt good after seeing their show. I think the hardware advantages that we've built are going to show up. As we're talking more about our games and frame rates and other things. I thought the games lineup that we're going to have at launch, I felt really good about. And we got more clarity on what they're doing, obviously at their show, which just helped us focus in on more of what we have. And I think that'll be a strength for us at launch. So I thought they did a good job. I thought, they do what they do very well. And they did that. But when I think about the position that we're in with the games that we're going to be able to show and how they're going to show up, and the hardware advantage that we have, I think we're in a very good position. So I feel good about July and the gameplay that we're going to be showing there, and the hardware capability. But I'll just say it's also nice as a gamer to see both of us out there and competing. I think the competition leads to better outcomes for both companies, and I applaud that.
And just to be clear, we will be seeing a little bit more on your side on gameplay and titles and software in July, correct? That's
right. Yeah, teams are working hard to get it lined up. We've taken feedback from our last event, and I think people are really going to be pleased with what we're going to be showing there. I think Halo will be a big part of it, and I think that's obviously an important title for us.
Xbox's messaging is that latency comes with immersion. Better frames and fidelity is what you'll be seeing in the Series X, and the minimum for Microsoft's first-party games will be 60 frames per second at a 4K resolution. It's extremely risky pushing this message if Microsoft doesn't show it, but seeing as they were able to push the performance for games in early cases like Gears 5 and even having a performance upgrade for Dirt 5, it's looking like this will be the case for all of their first-party games, which is amazing. 60 frames per second and 4K resolution as a minimum for their first party titles, that's only good news. Phil had a lot of great things to say in this interview, and he does seem very confident going into the showcase. I think what you can expect to see is most of their first party titles taking advantage of the Series X's hardware by hitting the target of 60 frames per second and 4K resolution. 60 frames per second was something that was lacking in the Sony PlayStation 5 showcase, and I was hoping to see it more in Sony's first party titles, as you will most likely see it in Microsoft's, but it seems like they're focusing more on 30 frames with that higher resolution. And for me, higher frame rates is more important as it dictates the feeling of a game. It was much harder to do 60 frames in the current generation that we're in right now with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and if you're going to have new generation of consoles, then I want to see what is different fidelity wise. If graphics aren't important to you, then the new generation of consoles probably aren't for you, because that's pretty much the difference this time around. So in essence, it's something we should expect to see. Both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are very powerful systems capable of hitting 60 frames per second, with the Series X having the edge in power when it comes to its CPU and GPU or APU. That only helps even further for fidelity and frame rate. The Series X is around 20% more powerful than the PlayStation 5 because of its GPU and CPU count. You will most likely see better performance on the Series X for multi-platform titles because of this power boost. Better performance means games hitting 60 to 120 frames per second. We already see a few titles on the Series X taking advantage of this new hardware. Microsoft has over 15 studios all cooking up something. The biggest issue we had for Microsoft in this generation was the lack of studios, but with companies like Ninja Theory, The Initiative, Double Fine, The Coalition, Obsidian, 343 Industries, and more, I think we'll have some surprises at the July showcase. I'm sure they are also hiding some game or studio announcements, as it was reported that Microsoft was looking for other studios to purchase. When they visited Poland, some of the studios that are in Poland are CD Projekt Red, Techland, and Farm 51. I doubt they purchased CD Projekt Red. Techland said they were still independent, so it's possible that they bought Farm 51 or some other studio, right? Farm 51 is responsible for World War III as a shooter game. They were also reported in looking for studios in Japan, so not just Poland. So expect to see some stuff about these companies possibly at the showcase in July. I think some games we can expect to see are games like Halo Infinite, which has been confirmed, the AAA third-person action game from The Initiative, which has developers from Santa Monica, creators of God of War, then also Uncharted and many other impressive development studios that were actually on Sony's side, but now they are joining The Initiative. I hope to see a tease from the Coalition. They are the developers of Gears of War. My throw in the hat guess of games we might / could see: Cuphead 2, that would be great. Conquer Reboot, Perfect Dark, maybe a partnership with NetherRealm. I expect to see Fable. Those are just my fun guesses. Don't quote me on that. Microsoft has also released some information about the optimization badge you might see on the cover for some Series Xbox games, right? So when it says optimized for Xbox Series X, you can expect that game will have a performance target of 60 frames per second at 4K resolution. Coming along with that, it might also have some next-gen features like DirectX ray tracing and virtually elimination of in-game load times with the Series X SSD, which is very powerful. People tend not to mention it because of the PlayStation 5's very powerful SSD, but the Series X SSD is still very fast. That's all that badge means, not to be confused with smart delivery. A lot of people confuse smart delivery as just a marketing ploy, saying that Sony is supporting this for the PlayStation 5, but it's a little more than that, and Sony actually isn't doing much to support this feature. They are really leaving it up to the developers to do that for them. So kudos to Microsoft for leading the way on that, and I hope it becomes a standard for the industry. But what is smart delivery? I'm going to try and break it down as simply as I can. Smart delivery means you purchase your game once. If you bought the game for Xbox One, you will get it for free on the Series X. What makes it different is if the developers made a totally different version of that game for the Series X that takes full advantage of the hardware, the console knows and it automatically uses that version. Here's what also makes it different that confuses some people. If the developer didn't make a Series X version of that game, it'll still automatically be upgraded in some way because of Microsoft's architecture. So the developer could sit down and not touch anything, and their game is still being upgraded in some fashion. Smart delivery mandates that to find the best version of the game for you. If the developer didn't touch it, it's Microsoft's version of that game. If developers made a whole different version for the Series X, obviously it's going to use that version. This is really useful if you want to buy a current gen title, if you experience some upgrades of the game until the next gen version comes out. I hope that makes sense to some people. The focus between these two companies couldn't be more apparent. While Sony focuses on immersion like the features in their controller or their leaked blueprints of an AI that helps you finish levels if it sees you struggling, Microsoft seems to be focusing on their powerful tech and advancing their frame rates and graphical fidelity. With Sony having a history of amazing exclusives and a huge player base, eyes are all on Microsoft for this upcoming showcase. They gave the amazing tech, the features, and even some interesting third-party titles coming to the system from their previous showcase. All of that will be for naught if they don't have the games. This is a very different generation than the last one with the Xbox One, and Phil Spencer has a chance to prove that with this upcoming July event. If you want companies to progress, don't settle for less. That quote goes to people praising Sony for not adding features. We want both companies to stay in competition with each other, but that also means Sony not resting on their laurels and still offering stuff like backwards compatibility and even smart delivery. They've been very quiet on these issues, and I hope that we'll hear more about it in their apparent show in the future. If you guys agree with this video or not, let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe for more content from the Video Games HD. I'm 3-Bit signing off. Have a good one.